I really enjoyed this
more than
film
that.
a lot. Yeah, I just
thank you.
kudos to you. You know, I'd heard so many things about it, and most of it erroneous. I've had a couple calls from people wanting to protest a movie called Killing Mrs. Tingle. And that whole ground, I kept saying, well, have you seen the film? They said, no. I said, well, why don't you see the film before you know what you're talking about? It was totally different.
Yeah, it's not. That's why, you know, I heard a little bit of that stuff, the rumblings of that a little earlier. I have a friend who's a school teacher in the public school system, and it came up on an agenda to we got to talk about this title, and you know, she was familiar with the project, and she said, guys, see the film. This is a fantasy film. It's an uplifting sort of fantasy film. It has a lot of elements of suspense and sort of wickedness, and it's not going to be what you think it is. So just chill out.
Why was the title changed?
Well, the change. Well, always we were thinking about changing the title just for my association with it, because when you think Kevin Williamson, you think Scream, you think horror film, you think, you know, exactly what this movie is not. And when you add killing in the title, Kevin Williamson, Scream, killing, boom, you got a horror film. It's not a horror film. There's nothing horror about it. It's PG-13. It's a fantasy film. It's got lots of humor in it, and it's more about, you know, it's more thematic in terms of you know, it's a very simple story of a young girl who learns to believe in herself. And with all of those things, we were sitting around debating about changing the title, and then I think that, you know, then that's the unfortunate thing of Colorado happened, and it was very tragic, and I think it affected people so monumentally. I think we all said, here's our moment, let's change the title now.
Well, the new title is much more accurate.
Yes, they
when
teach
you see
her a
the
lesson.
film.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's not about killing, it's about teaching.
Yes.
From both sides.
Well, yeah, it's about what are we teaching our children, you know, and so that's kind of, it is a very appropriate title.
And I understand, because I read this in the material, that awful experience that you had as a child growing up, to squelch that is really the seed that produced this story.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
Yeah, well, and that's very true, and people, I think, would be surprised about how autobiographical even the plot of this film is. I was caught in the gym with my friends. We went to the teacher's house that night and begged her not to turn us in, that, you know, it was 1 week before graduation, and we were really going to lose our futures here. And she slammed the door in our face and called our parents. And that's sort of where the reality ended, and the story takes over. My fiction mind sort of came up with the rest, because we always thought, well, what if we had taken it one step further? And so that's where the sort of the fictional element comes in. But it's very true. You know, I had a teacher, she tried to tell me, she goes, you'll never be a writer. You know, she just sort of she ripped my story up in class and sent me on my way. And I believed her for like forever. And then I finally sat down and wrote a story, and this is what came out.
Isn't that true that when you're at that age, you are so intimidated and are so frightened, and that you have to become an adult to think about how to go back and make that right? Now, if I had my mind now, if I knew now then what I know now, I could do that.
Exactly, and I didn't. That's why I was very hesitant to give too many explanation and reasoning behind why Mrs. Tingle is evil, because when you're 15 years old, you don't understand why someone's being mean to you. You know, that's the whole point of that evil teacher. You never knew why she was mean. She was just mean to the core, and you didn't understand the seeds of hatred and how they're born and how they evolve. And so I hinted at reasons Mrs. Tingle was evil, but I didn't give a clear-cut answer, because I didn't want to add any sympathy to her character. I wanted the fun of hating her.
As a first-time director,
yes.
Did you end up with the film you set out to make?
Yes, I mean, to a large extent. But you know, when you get into the whole process of filmmaking, one thing I've learned is that it evolves, it changes, you know, things metamorphose. I mean, you know, where you think this moment is here and it's really over here, and you have to sort of, it's just sort of you know, it was a good experience for me to take a script, a writer's script, and really sort of try to create a vision from it, from more than just what's on the paper. So it was a challenge. I learned a lot. You know, I hope I didn't screw up too much. You know, I certainly learned a lot of things that I'd do differently if I had the opportunity, and hopefully, and I'm going to get it because I'm doing another film. But it was a great experience. I'm very happy with it. I'm very proud of it. It was kind of like, can I do it? Can I do it? Can I do it? Can I really not believe Mrs. Tingle? Can it really happen for me? And I'm happy with it. I watched, you know, it's just very personal. I hope an audience finds it, you know, fun and compelling, because I certainly do. It works for me, so I'm very happy with it.